secured. Reviewing the partial success of efforts to do so since the early 1990s, under the initiatives of Senators Sam Nunn and Richard Lugar, Allison describes the setback to these programs from the first days of the Bush administration. Bush planners put to the side the programs to avert inevitable nuclear terror, as they devoted their energies to driving the country to war, and then to efforts to contain somehow the catastrophe they created in Iraq. In the Journal of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, not given to hyperbole, strategic analysts John Steinbrunner and Nancy Gallagher warn that the Bush administration's military programs and its aggressive stance carry an appreciable risk of ultimate doom. The reasons are straightforward. Pursuit of total security by one state, including the right to wage war at will, and to remove the nuclear brakes, Pedatsur, entails the insecurity of others who are likely to react. The terrifying technology now being developed in Rumsfeld's transformation of the military will assuredly diffuse to the rest of the world. In the context of competition in intimidation, the action-reaction cycle creates a rising danger, potentially an unmanageable one. If the United States political system cannot recognize that risk and cannot confront the implications, they warn, its viability will be very much in question. Steinbrunner and Gallagher express hope that the threat the U.S. government is posing to its own population and the world will be countered by a coalition of peace-loving nations, led by China. We have come to a pretty pass when such thoughts are expressed at the heart of the establishment, and what that implies about the state of American democracy, where the issues scarcely even enter the electoral arena or public discussion, is no less shocking and threatening, illustrating the democratic deficit mentioned in the preface. Steinbrunner and Gallagher bring up China because of all the nuclear states, it has maintained by far the most restrained pattern of military deployment. Furthermore, China has led efforts in the United Nations to preserve outer space for peaceful purposes in conflict with the United States, which, along with Israel, has barred all moves to prevent an arms race in space. The militarization of space did not originate in the Bush administration. Clinton's Space Command called for dominating the space dimensions of military operations to protect U.S. interests and investment, much in the way armies and navies did in earlier years. The United States must therefore develop space-based strike weapons, enabling the application of precision force from, to, and through space. Such forces will be needed, U.S. intelligence and the Space Command agreed, because globalization of the world economy will lead to a widening economic divide and deepening economic stagnation, political instability, and cultural alienation, thus provoking unrest and violence among the have-nots, much of it directed against the United States. The space program fell within the framework of the officially announced Clinton doctrine that the United States is entitled to resort to unilateral use of military power to ensure uninhibited access to key markets, energy supplies, and strategic resources. Clinton planners, Stratcom, advised further that Washington should portray itself as irrational and vindictive if its vital interests are attacked, including the threat of first strike with nuclear weapons against non-nuclear states. Nuclear weapons are far more valuable than other weapons of mass destruction, Stratcom noted, because the extreme destruction from a nuclear explosion is immediate, with few, if any, palliatives to reduce its effect. Furthermore, nuclear weapons always cast a shadow over any crisis or conflict, extending the reach of conventional power. Again, the strategic doctrine is not new. For example, Carter's Defense Secretary Harold Brown called on Congress to fund strategic nuclear capabilities because with them, our other forces become meaningful instruments of military and political power, which must be available everywhere in the Third World, because largely for economic reasons there is increased turbulence from within as well as intervention from the Soviet Union. The latter more a pretext than a reason, a fact sometimes frankly recognized. Under the Bush administration, the threats have become even more serious. Bush planners extended Clinton's doctrine of control of space for military purposes to ownership of space, which may mean instant engagement anywhere in the world. Top military commanders informed Congress in 2005 that the Pentagon is developing new space weaponry that would allow the United States to launch an attack very quickly, with very short timelines on the planning and delivery, any place on the face of the earth. General James Cartwright, head of the Strategic Command, explained. The policy subjects every part of the globe to the risk of instant destruction, thanks to sophisticated global surveillance and lethal offensive weaponry in space, reciprocally endangering the people of the United States. The Bush administration has also broadened the first strike option, and has increasingly blurred the line between conventional and nuclear weapons, thus heightening the risk that the nuclear option will be used, military analyst William Arkin observes. Weapons systems now under development could deliver a conventional payload precisely on target within minutes of a valid command and control release order, conforming to an Air Force doctrine that defines space superiority as freedom to attack as well as freedom from attack. Weapons expert John Pike comments that the new programs allow the United States to crush someone anywhere in the world on 30 minutes' notice, with no need for a nearby airbase, a substantial benefit given the regional antagonism aroused by the hundreds of U.S. bases placed all over the world to ensure global domination. The National Defense Strategy that Rumsfeld signed on March 1, 2005, enables us to project power anywhere in the world from secure bases of operation, recognizing the importance of influencing events before challenges become more dangerous and less manageable, in accord with the preventive war doctrine. General Lance W. Lord, head of the Air Force Space Command, informed Congress that systems currently under development will allow the United States to deliver a conventional payload precisely on target within minutes of a valid command and control release order, and a non-conventional payload as well, needless to say. Not surprisingly, these actions have elicited concern, criticism, and reactions. Senior military and space officials of the European Union, Canada, China, and Russia warned that just as the unleashing of nuclear weapons had unforeseen consequences, so too would the weaponization of space. As anticipated, Russia responded to Bush's vast increase in offensive military capacity by sharply increasing its own capacities, and has reacted to Pentagon leaks about militarization of space by announcing that it would consider using force if necessary to respond. Missile defense, recognized on all sides to be a first strike weapon, is a particularly severe danger to China. If the programs show any signs of success, China is likely to expand its offensive capacities to preserve its deterrent. China is already developing more powerful missiles with multiple nuclear warheads capable of reaching the United States, a policy called aggressively defensive by the Asia-Pacific editor for the world's leading military weekly. In 2004, the United States accounted for 95% of total global military space expenditures, but others may join if compelled to do so, vastly increasing the risks to everyone. U.S. analysts recognize that current Pentagon programs can be interpreted as a significant move by the United States toward weaponization of space, and that there seems little doubt that space basing of weapons is an accepted aspect of the Air Force transformation planning, developments that are in the long term very likely to have a negative effect on the national security of the United States. Their Chinese counterparts agree that while Washington proclaims defensive intentions, to China and to many other countries, the construction of such a system looks more like the development of the Death Star spaceship in the